I am not a financial advisor, and I never give financial advice on this channel. 100% of this content is for entertainment purposes only. Hello everybody, hope you're doing well. It's Lane here with MetaShackle. Today I'm going to be going over the Bitcoin, the XRP, the XLM, as well as the HBAR charts. So let's not waste any time and let's get into it. So the first thing that I want to go over is looking right here at the XRP charts. This is the 1 hour chart, and I want you to see that we have formed a fair value gap right here, which has already acted as a drawn liquidity at this point right here after coming up and setting this high right around that 230 range. Now switching back over to the daily chart, you can see that that same fair value gap is actually right here acting as a drawn liquidity. Now take a look at this candle right here. This is a very interesting candle and it gives you a lot of information. This wicked down heavily into this liquidity. The wick of this candle is very long and the body itself is very small. Now I'm zoomed in on the smaller head and shoulders pattern right here, which we punched through the neckline just right here. And my guess is we're actually going to gain momentum and actually work up in this direction, somewhere between this fair value gap and between the equilibrium line in this orange circle right here, before we move into the flash crash. And as I said in my last video, there's a bunch of different ways that this could go. It could fail off of this fair value gap right here, coming down and potentially trying to take out this previous low. It could also come up here and get rejected somewhere around this upper trend line. And if that's the case, I believe that it will stop short of taking out this low and actually bounce off of this fair value gap that is formed on the 4 hour, which would actually give it a larger fractal inverted head and shoulders pattern right here. And the other option is that it could break through this trend line, come up to equilibrium, and also would be very likely that it would come down and bounce off of this fair value gap. The higher the price goes in this direction, the more likely that this fair value gap is going to be what holds it. The lower that it goes in the pattern, the more likely that we'll take out this previous low right here, ending up somewhere in this orange box. Taking a look at the Bitcoin chart overall, this is the daily chart. We now have another trend line that is coming into play right here, this thick white line, as well as the broadening wedge pattern that has been going for quite some time. The price came down here and bottomed out at the top of this fair value gap, right at the very top of the zone that I specified in a previous video that I believed would be where we saw the price turn around. We barely dipped into that fair value gap area right here at the top end of that range, then bounced out, broke above this upper trend line right here in the fifth wave, the false breakout leg. And as you can see, we have come up and gone into the equilibrium zone and even crossed slightly through the equilibrium line itself, which is the green line you see right here in the center of the equilibrium zone. And I think it's very likely, having already pushed up to the equilibrium zone at this point, in order for the other cryptos to get to this same point, we would likely have to see Bitcoin come up a little higher, perhaps right here at the +2 line on my Fibonacci's. But I think that it would be very likely during the flash crash that the price would come and take out this previous low right here. It doesn't have to, but I think that it will. At the very least, I believe this pattern will come back down and retest off of this upper trend line. So if we don't see a retest of this, expect it to test this upper trend line before bouncing up, breaking out, moving into the month of May, which I believe is going to be the beginning of the biggest part of this breakout in this bull run that we have seen thus far. So keep an eye on the Bitcoin chart because this might tip us off to what we're about to see in the other charts. Now moving on to the XLM chart. This is also the daily chart. This descending wedge pattern is looking beautiful. Price came down nearly to this fair value gap right here at the bottom of the pattern, sweeping all of the liquidity from this previous pattern. It started to trade upwards and is about 50-50 on the center line of the Gaussian channel as we speak. There is a fair value gap right here a SIBI that may act as resistance as it comes through this upper trend line, assuming that's what it's going to do. But I think it's highly likely that what we would see is the price breaking out of this wedge, coming up here to the equilibrium line in the equilibrium zone, where there's also another fair value gap that could likely act as resistance, bringing the price down in the flash crash. As in the other charts, I do believe that we will come down and take out this previous low, likely coming down and at least touching the top of this fair value gap down here. But at the very least, I would expect to see the same thing that could potentially happen in Bitcoin, that if it does not come down to take out this previous low, it would be very likely that we would actually bounce off of this upper trend line right here as a sort of a retest of that boundary line before the breakout begins starting in the month of May. And XLM is generally traded right alongside with XRP, not identically, but they always traded very closely to each other. They have been breaking apart from each other in those regards over the last 3 or 4 months. Once we saw the Trump pump begin starting on November 4th, there was an incredible divergence from XRP and XLM moving into that breakout. XRP breaking out of the wedge pattern that it had been trapped in for almost 7 years, but XLM did not break out of that upper trend line and still is contained within it, which means XLM has some catching up to do. So keep your eyes open, because we could see a situation where XLM breaks out bigly in an attempt to try and catch up with the XRP chart before the two of them start to move upwards together, moving into the month of May, June, July, possibly even August. But the strongest pair of all the cryptos in regards to the XRP breakout chart, which tells us that the breakout will begin in May, is going to be XRP1 and XLM number 2. So keep that in mind. We will see varying degrees of this same pattern breaking out through the broader crypto market, but the XRP breakout chart is specific to XRP, and XLM, essentially being a fork of XRP, would just win by default, because we all know that XRP and XLM have a very crucial part of the new digital monetary system that we are now transitioning into. So that will be something to think about. Now, moving on to the HBAR daily chart. We also have multiple points here to where we're forming another trend line right here along the face, which is creating a descending wedge pattern, which is incredibly bullish. We're also trading outside of that upper trend line right here in this area, trading nearly at the center line on the Gaussian channel. The low point was set right here, just at the top of this fair value gap, very close to the area that I thought that we would see it. Now, it would take an incredible amount of momentum for the price to trade up to this equilibrium zone right here, especially to the equilibrium line laying in the center, which is the green line you see here. The same thing that we saw in the other charts is we have a bearish fair value gap right here, which has been acting as resistance that we will need to get through first in order to even have a chance to get to that point. But the chart is looking very interesting, because if it does move up into this area, getting rejected anywhere in this area, coming back down for the retest during the flash crash, this would look almost perfectly like a retest of this breakout point right here. So there's a very good chance that we will take out this low, coming down into this fair value gap somewhere, maybe even bouncing off of this upper trend line. So we would see a movement like this coming down, bouncing out, moving into May, and then bouncing off of this area somewhere right here in this fair value gap, upper trend line zone, moving into the month of May, which I believe is going to be the month that we see the breakout begin, moving into June, July, and possibly even August. So this is a very interesting chart. And as you can see, some of these charts are actually starting to get ahead, starting to trade outside of this upper trend line right here. I think it's very likely, once this flash crash occurs, or this retest on this upper trend line, that we are absolutely going to come up here and test this upper trend line right here of the broadening wedge pattern overall, which from current prices right now would be over a 100% gain. And I also believe that HBAR has a very important role to play in the new digital financial system moving forward. Some of the technologies involved with Hedera are better than anything else on the entire market. And if there is a crypto out there that even stands a chance of rivaling what XRP can do, it is HBAR. And it's definitely going to be one that you want to hold and that you want to keep your eyes on. So thank you so much for watching this video. I appreciate each and every single one of you. Please do me a favor and hit the like button. It doesn't cost you anything and it helps the channel, and I would really appreciate it. So thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.